So it looks like Big Daddy government is now getting ready to set up shop to sell pot in New York, and what could possibly go wrong? They've done such a great job with the public school system and the DMV and the Department of Sanitation, and of course, doling out these Rona tests. They've also forced people to become living, breathing science experiments, all because of a super scary, ultra deadly respiratory illness. So I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be actively encouraging people to sell and smoke weed at this particular point in time. I mean, everybody's doing it. Even Pfizer's getting in on the action. And luckily, because this is New York, it's going to be super woke and very anti-racist. But with all that said, I suppose it is still better than opening up a brand new safe injection site. And we have this article from Gothamist. New York Cannabis Board Chair answers questions about what it will take to snag a marijuana business license. And I can almost guarantee they're not going to make it easy for anybody involved. You would probably be better off just hitting up the homeboy from Bushwick or Bed-Stuy and eliminating these creeps from the transaction entirely, but that's just me. New York legalized marijuana for recreational use last March with a law designed to carve out space for small businesses and people from diverse backgrounds. So they're saying, well, we know how much you black and brown folks really like your weed, so we're going to go ahead and give you a leg up on this one. And they want to talk about small businesses as if they haven't spent the last 2 years and counting implementing crippling restrictions on small businesses all over the place. But now apparently they're here to help these new small business owners sell their weed. I'm obviously not buying it, but it goes on. In an effort to provide a clearer picture of what the application process will look like and what they will need to participate in the industry, the community board hosted a Q&A Tuesday night with Tremaine Wright, chair of the state's recently formed Cannabis Control Board, which will be overseeing the licensing process. So there it is, a brand new government agency full of unelected bureaucrats, and I'm sure that they are going to be the people to profit and benefit most from this brand new legal weed law. And I don't see how anybody who's been selling weed in New York is jumping at the chance to have the government hand in their pocket, especially considering we all know now that any crime, basically outside of murder and maybe not wearing a mask inside of a grocery store, is not going to get you even 1 day in jail. All they're going to do is take half of your profits, so I don't see the point in it, really. And when you read this, you realize that they actually don't have very many answers to the questions that these people are asking, but they will tell you that pretty much everything is racist. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act sets out an ambitious goal of reserving half of all licenses for so-called, quote, social and economic equity applicants, including minority and women-owned businesses, distressed farmers, disabled veterans, and those from communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So that's a long stretch of buzzwords right there, all to say that we don't really want any white people in there. So, okay, fair enough. When will dispensaries be open for business? By summer 2023. I highly doubt that. There's going to be red tape everywhere, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. When will license applications become available? There is no set date, but it will likely take several months. So again, we don't know. How much will it cost to apply for a license? The application fees for different types of recreational cannabis licenses have yet to be determined. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different types, and we don't know how much any of them are going to cost, but we do know that everything is probably racist. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act notes, however, that fees should be reduced or waived for, quote, social and economic equity applicants. Will the state help with startup capital? In other states and in New York's own medical market, legal marijuana has largely been dominated by companies helmed by white men with access to wealthy investors. Okay, so they're really taking the race card and throwing it in here hard at this point. They're just telling you that we don't want any white men. We're going to reserve this for all the black and brown people because we know exactly how much they really like weed and how much they hate whitey. And we also hate whitey. Get them out of here. Apparently, that's kind of what it sounds like to me, you know. So it continues, as part of an effort to make the adult use market more accessible, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act indicates that the state should make low and no interest loans available to, quote, qualified social and economic equity applicants. So again, we're going to make sure that all of the colored folks, the poor oppressed colored folks, get the, pick of the litter at these small business loans apparently. But then they say, Those loans are not guaranteed to be available in the first round of licensing because the money to fund them will largely come from tax revenue generated by the industry. So we're going to give you the leg up, but you're also going to have to wait for those loans because we're going to have to wait for some successful people to start up the industry so that we can take the money from them and then give it to you. Okay, so this is insane. And we all know that when the government puts their hands in things like this, they could do no right. They're just going to ruin this in, I don't know, probably 2 years. How will the Office of Cannabis Management protect so-called legacy applicants who previously sold in the underground market? So how are you going to give people who were illegally selling weed for years a leg up? She's not sure exactly. Again, they don't know, but they do know that everything is racist. Will applicants be able to open a chain of dispensaries? Probably not. Will I have to have a lease on a space for the business when I apply? We are leaning toward you not having to have it already, but you might need a letter of intent. They just don't know anything except that the black and brown folks are going to certainly have the advantage in this. But like I said, when the government puts their hands in things like this, it's only a matter of time before it completely collapses. We remember what happened in California. California's $100 million marijuana bailout tells you all you need to know about its government. California's legislature recently approved a $100 million plan to boost the Golden State's struggling legal marijuana industry, which is floundering under an oppressive tax and regulatory climate. And there's greasy Gavin Newsom right there. And he goes on to talk about Blow, which I haven't seen in a really long time, but I do remember enjoying it. Maybe it's worth another watch. That's not the point, though. As the Los Angeles Times reports, the industry is in serious trouble. The growth of licensed cannabis shops has been dismal and far below state projections. Just 1,086 retail and delivery firms have been permitted to date, about 82% lower than the 6,000 cannabis shops the government anticipated. So again, the government doesn't know what they're doing. Or maybe this is all by design to further ruin the lives of people trying to start a business. I'm not actually sure. How is this possible? Well, shortly after California legalized pot in 2016, lawmakers began burdening the industry with so many regulations, particularly myriad compliance orders associated with the California Environmental Quality Act. So again, this is about the environment and the sun monster and climate change. That's the reason that there's so much red tape around opening up a legal recreational cannabis shop in California. Businesses are drowning under paperwork, fees, and delays. And this is the Los Angeles Times article. California offers $100 million to rescue its struggling legal marijuana industry. So basically, they made it legal to benefit all of the pot smokers in California. Apparently, they taxed these people into oblivion and then printed out $100 million to give back to them so that they can keep their business afloat and then later tax them again on the money they made.